Right, is there any other comments that members want to make? Right, well, there's been a proposal put forward to accept the officer's recommendation proposed by Councillor Sue Ayres, and it's been seconded by Councillor Adrian Osborne, that we accept the officer's recommendations as in our papers. So with that, I'm now going to ask Rob Carmichael to do the roll call and go through the members to vote.
Thank you, Chair. And this is just to confirm this is on the first application that we are looking at of, I'll just get the reference number for clarity. It is DC 1800, sorry, DC 180201. So I'll take them in order. If you could please respond with for, against, or abstain. So, Councillor Sue Ayres.
For.
Councillor Melanie Barrett.
For.
Councillor Peter Beer.
For.
Councillor David Busby.
Against.
Councillor John Hinton.
Against.
Councillor Lee Jameson.
Against.
Councillor Mary McLaren.
Against.
Councillor Adrian Osborne.
For.
Councillor Alison Owen.
Against.
Councillor Lee Parker.
Against.
Councillor Stephen Plum.
Against.
Thank you, members. The motion is lost.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just to confirm as legal that I counted as well. Indeed, 7 votes to 4 is lost.
Yep, that's what I've got as well. Thank you very much. Right, so now I need to ask you how you wish to go forward now. We need another motion put forward by those that have voted against. Councillor Busby.
Thank you. Well, I think it's against heritage. I think the impact on heritage, I'm not good with numbers and policies, but I think the heritage impact is still too great. And I think in the conclusions you mentioned core strategy CS2, and I'm not convinced about CS11 being in broad compliance either.
That was the housing survey, yep. Right. Officers, is that acceptable?
Yes, it might be worth just coming in here, Peter, because obviously Councillor Beer, because we're obviously staring down an overturn here, and I think it's really important that we just articulate the key issues in order that we can formulate any reasons for refusal. Yep. I think obviously there is a breach of CS2. I think that's acknowledged in the officer report. That's fine. Obviously there is that fact that it is in the countryside, and presumably members are saying there are no exceptional circumstances, and certainly the need for this development isn't justifiable in light of the harm. I think just on the broader CS11 point, I would be cautious about saying that there isn't necessarily a locally identified need. I think we saw that play out in the Long Melford inquiry, and obviously we had a decision from the Secretary of State on that only a few weeks ago. I think it's going to be very difficult, certainly in the absence of any clear direction to the contrary from members on this, that there isn't a need. Obviously, officers have suggested that whilst it's slightly scant, that there is a pointing to there being a need to be fulfilled by this development.
I'll ask Councillor Busby in a moment to re-look at that CS 11. But if you'd like to carry on with the other issues, heritage.
Okay, Chair. And then actually, from my own view, I think this ultimately is a heritage case, and I think obviously members have made a number of comments now about heritage. I think in respect of that, what would be really useful is to understand first and foremost how harmful it is, and whether this is they're following the officer's conclusion that it's a medium level of less than substantial harm, and more importantly that it is less than substantial harm. That doesn't mean, as I said previously, that the harm is less than significant. It's just that in MPPF parlance, it just affects the way that you deal with that harm, and obviously you do attach a considerable importance to it. And I think, as a number of members have said, that the harm would be not outweighed by the public benefit. In doing so, it would be also really useful to understand which assets themselves are being harmed by, or would be harmed by this development. And I think there is detail for that in the officer report, and indeed the previous resolution of this committee, which, not meaning to influence members, but just pointing out as a matter of fact, they were Strawton Hall, Root Barn, Tide Barn, and the Great East Star listed All Saints Church. So if that could be clarified, that would be really useful.
Thank you. Councillor Busby, you've heard all that. I think the CS2 housing survey, the feeling is that perhaps that wouldn't be sensible to pursue that one, but you could elaborate on the heritage medium to harm, and that could carry weight with CS2.
Well, I think we take the heritage officer's comments on that. I think he's exactly right on that. I take odds with the housing need. The only housing need survey was conducted before Wolseley Grange has been built out. I think if they conducted a housing need survey now, which is when we're actually doing the decision, I'm not so certain that there would be shown from Strawton residents that there would be a housing need. And I think the other points that I would also bring in, that this is outside the village boundary, therefore it has to show a much greater positive benefit than harm, and I don't think it does. Plus there's also the harm to the SLA.
Well, council officers, I think Councillor Busby has made a case for keeping CS11 housing survey in his recommendation for refusal. How do you want to comment on that?
Well, ultimately, that's obviously I think as data, you've got we could be looking at as an opening to the reasons for refusal. Then the circumstances of the application and the proposed development are not exceptional and without a proven justifiable need, contrary to policy CS2 and CS11.
Would that be acceptable, Councillor Busby?
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you, Steve.
And yes, go on. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Chair. And then moving on to the heritage. Before I do, I just on the SLA point. Again, this is something that is covered in the officer report, and obviously there will always be an element of harm to the development of a greenfield site. But in landscape terms, obviously, this site is not necessarily representative of the whole of the special landscape area. It is, I think, from the report noted that it's a relatively enclosed site, and I think we might be hard pressed to defend a discrete and independent landscape reason for refusal. But again, I'll put that to Councillor Busby, and if he wants to press that point, then obviously we can keep it. But I think certainly the heritage point is probably going to be far stronger.
Yes, I mean I agree. I think we're only looking at small elements that are still contrary and provide harm. The biggest one, obviously, is heritage. So out of 100, you'd probably apply 80 points to the heritage. But there are other factors which cumulatively add up to saying that the harm is greater than the benefit.
Right, thank you. I've got Councillor Jamieson followed by Councillor Hinton. So I'll just take Councillor Jamieson's point. Does CR04 not come into play as well in regards to the SLA? Councillor Jamieson?
Well, I was just thinking it's just trying to get CR04 back up on my screen. What's it? it says it's maintain and enhance the special landscape area, qualities of the area. Well, this doesn't really do that, and in line with also the heritage aspects, I wondered if that may be able to be taken into account.
Stephen?
So CRO4 is it's a phased policy from the old local plan, 2006. It is relevant purely in respect of special landscape areas, and that's right, the policy text does require maintenance or enhancement of the area. But I'd make the point that if this is an element of the reasons for refusal to be put forward, I think you need to be clear, why this would be harmful and why it would be contrary to that particular policy, and why any mitigating measures of the design of the scheme don't necessarily deal with that point.
Right, thank you. Councillor Busby, do you want to accept CRO4? And if you do, you need to elaborate on it.
No, do I hear what Steve says. I think it's the objection strong enough without CRO4, but it just makes a point.
Thank you. Then I've got Councillor Hinton. Would you like to come in now? Councillor Hinton?
Yeah, sorry, just getting to the right little button to press. Yes, I would like to second Councillor Busby's proposal. And can I suggest that when you're looking at the final summary, which is slide 44, is in conflict with the core strategy CS2. It says broad compliance on this. And I would have to say that it's in broad conflict with CS11 and CS15, because not all of the points in CS11 are against this site, but more are against it than are in favour of it. So the balance of acceptance or harm, if you like to call it that, in planning terms, is against this proposal, using both CS11 and CS15.
Thank you. Yes, go on.
Oh, sorry, Chair, just to say that, yes, obviously we will import a planning balance on a resolution for members to, or for the proposer to consider, because obviously it's not just a case of chucking some reasons for refusal. I think bearing in mind this is an overturn, we need to be very clear about the reasons and follow through kind of the general approach to planning balance. I'm just wondering if I might just have 2 minutes just to knock something together and then come back with some words for Councillor Busby to consider.
And then I'll ask if him and the seconder want to accept that. Yep, that'll be fine. We'll have a couple of minute cool down.
Councillor Parker's got something to say, I think.
Oh, sorry, yes. Councillor Parker, we can take that while he's doing that.
Yeah, well, thank you, Chair. I mean, it just occurs to me that the reasons for refusal this time round are precisely the same as the reasons for refusal last time round, namely that they're heritage. So, so is it not just as simple as mirroring the reasons that were given previously for this time?
Is anything simple in planning, Councillor Parker? But I'll try and get an answer to that one for you.
Well, if I could I come back on that, Chair?
Yep.
Could I come back in, Chair?
Mm-hmm. Yes, please do.
Yeah, super. Because the officer asked particularly if we could list the buildings that were of concern, and so if I can help with that, I mean the buildings that are of concern are Broughton Hall, Root Barn, Tithe Barn, and the Grade 2 listed All Saints Church.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it did. Right, Stephen.
Oh, yes, Chair. Okay, I think I have something. If you're ready.
Yes, please.
And it does pick up on the points that Councillor Parker has just mentioned.
Good.
So it would start by saying the circumstances of the application and the proposed development are exceptional and are without a proven justifiable need, contrary to policy CS2 and CS11. The proposed development is considered to lead to a medium level of less than substantial harm to the settings of the Grade 2 listed buildings Broughton Hall, Root Barn and Tithe Barn, and the Grade 2 star listed All Saints Church Broughton, and is not considered to respectively contribute positively to the setting and significance of these listed buildings. Conflicting with Babergh Local Plan Policy CN06, not respecting these heritage assets, the heritage characteristics of the village or historic views of the heritage assets, contrary to Babergh core strategy policies CS11 and CS15. Further to this, the public benefits of the scheme, chiefly the market housing, affordable housing and net gains to biodiversity on the site, are not considered to outweigh this harm, making the proposal contrary to the heritage policies of the NPPF. The development conflicts with the development plan when taken as a whole, and there are no material considerations which indicate that a decision should be taken other than in accordance with the development plan.
Thank you.
That's it.
Councillor Busby.
Gosh, just what I was going to say.
That's your proposal, is it?
Yep.
Thank you very much. And it's seconded still by Councillor Hinton?
Yes, I would agree with that. I think Stephen's hit the nail on the head there.
Chair, if I might, just one more point.
Yep.
I think it would also be useful from prior experience in appeal situations that it would also be useful if members can resolve that in the event that an appeal is received, that authority is delegated to the Chief Planning Officer to defend it for the reasons given, but also being amended or varied as may be required.
Yes. You're happy with that, Councillor Busby?
Not certain I understood the last bit.
Yeah, that was a little bit I was struggling. Can you just elaborate?
Absolutely, Chair. This was a point that was put to and agreed by members when we refused the Grantham scheme recently from Gladman. It's just a point really that gives us the opportunity to, taking advice as may be the case if we end up in an inquiry situation from council, amending the council's position to make it as strong as possible. If, for example, we're required to reflect again on housing need or the way that might be approached, if that is an issue of the appeal. But obviously members don't have to take that. If you want to keep it as it is, that's fine. It just means that if we do need to seek authority in respect to appeal matters, we will just need to come back to planning committee.
That might be the better way. But anyway, Councillor Busby?
That's fine.
Councillor Busby?
No, I'm actually happy to take Steve's advice on that.
Right. So we're sticking with what Steve's just read out then. And I'll ask your seconder, which was Councillor Hinton, are you happy?
Yep, no problem.
Okay, that's fine. Right, I'll now go to Rob again to ask for him to do a roll call of the voting again.
Thank you, Chair. So again, this is for DC 18-02010.
Yep.
And I will now ask you to respond with for, against, or abstain. So, Councillor Sue Ayres.
Against.
Councillor Melanie Barrett.
Against.
Councillor Peter Beer.
Against.
Councillor David Busby.
For.
Councillor John Hinton.
For.
Councillor Lee Jameson.
For.
Councillor Mary McLaren.
For.
Councillor Adrian Osborne.
Against.
Councillor Alison Owen.
For.
Councillor Lee Parker.
For.
Councillor Stephen Plum.
For.
So that motion is carried, Chair.
And legal?
Agreed by legal.
Thank you. So it's 7-4. It's recommended for refusal. Sorry, it's been refused. Right. There we'll go to the second application, which is exactly the same. Now, members, do you wish to go into debate on this, or do you want to make a proposal?
But I'd like to propose that we refuse that one as well.
I would second that, Mr. Chairman.
For the same reasons?
There's no difference between the applications, so yes.
Thank you. I need you to tell us that, that's all.
Correct.
And seconded by Councillor Hinton. Right, members, we can go into debate. Do you wish to debate it anymore?
No, go straight to the vote.
Right, there's no one in the box or anything. It's been proposed and seconded that we refuse the application for the reasons already indicated. Do we need to read them out, Rob, or can we take that as said?
I don't think we need to read them out.
Yep.
Sorry,
Well,
I don't think we would need to read them out unless if any member specifically wants us to.
No, I would think we're all aware of it. I'll ask you to go through the roll call again.
Thank you, then, Chair. So same applies. If you could please respond with for, against, or abstain. So Councillor Sue Ayres.
Against.
Councillor Melanie Barrett.
Against.
Councillor Peter Beer.
Against.
Councillor David Busby.
For.
Councillor John Hinton.
For.
Councillor Lee Jamieson.
For.
Is somebody tapping? Sorry, sorry to interrupt there. Yeah, so we've got Councillor Lee Jamieson, Councillor Mary McLaren,
For.
Councillor Adrian Osborne,
Against.
Councillor Alison Owen,
For.
Councillor Lee Parker,
For.
and Councillor Stephen Plum.
For.
And that motion is carried. Chair again, 7 votes to 4.
Legal.
I was muted then. Sorry, Chairman. Yes, I agree. That's 7 to 4. Yes.
Thank you. That's what I make it as well. Thank you. Right. So we've now done that. Right. I think we've now got to the end of the meeting, members. I think we've taken care of everything, haven't we, Rob?
Yes, Chair.
Yep. Well, members, I'd just like to say thank you very much to all of you and your patience, and to all those public speakers and people who took part in it. We got there. We had 1 or 2 little problems, but at the end of the day, I think we managed to conduct the Babergh District Council Planning Committee. So thanks to all of you. So thank you very much and goodbye.